Hello, and good afternoon everybody. Welcome to our lecture. The reason why we do this on YouTube is because others at Sutton Coldfield in isolation. They're in isolation because of COVID-19. But today, I'm going to talk about drones like this one. And some bigger drones like this one. Some little tiny little bitty drones about that big. And we're going to look at how use these drones in the film industry so I can films look a little guys, can't do this. Basically, we're going to do a little bit of a presentation on drones, how we've used them in Sutton Coldfield movie makers, how they use them in the film industry to make films look better. We'll be looking at a bit of the techniques, we'll be looking at a few of the shots that you can do, even some of the science, and there might even be a little exam at the end, so don't forget to take notes. Just take a moment to think about birds in flight, and amazed that this film is one of the very few in existence that's filmed about birds and not made by Paula Webster. As a boy, I looked at birds flying in the sky and wished I could join them. I often wondered what the world would look like from their point of view, and this is where my fascination with flight began. What I've decided to do is, rather than do PowerPoint presentations, I've tried to use as many film clips as I possibly can. We're all filmmakers and I think we enjoy watching films more than a boring PowerPoint. I've really enjoyed putting this together and I hope you enjoyed watching it. What I'd like you to think about first is the word drone. What does the word drone mean to you? Just take a couple of seconds to have a think about that. Just like to warn you, the next clip shows some military conflict and a realistic sales video from Brimstone. Okay, so here's the problem. What's a drone? Is it that multi-million-dollar thing that you've seen in the previous clip? Or is it this little thing that we've got in front of us, costs a few quid? Everything in between this and the multi-million-dollar thing that you saw in the previous clip is labelled a drone, so it's not really a very descriptive term. But in any case, you now have a reference point for where you can decide what a drone is. And this presentation will be dealing with the non-military stuff, the stuff that we're looking at doing films with. Okay, so we now know what it isn't. It isn't a piece of military hardware. We also know what we want to do with it. Looking back at that clip with the birds, we want to get that lovely perspective from above. But how do we go about doing that? Here's Jill in her private plane trying to take off. But she's having a little bit of difficulty because there are two forces working against her. Firstly, the sheer weight of the plane, or mass, is preventing it from leaving the ground. And also, the drag, which is those forces that act against a surface, and you can feel drag for yourself. If you put your hand out of a moving car at 30 miles an hour, you can feel a strong force trying to push your hand backwards. This is drag. So we know we can overcome drag because we've got an engine in the plane, so we can add thrust. But then it's little more than a car. How do we overcome mass? How do we add lift? The secret is in the shape of the wing. If you look at the cross section, it looks like a bit of a elongated teardrop with a slight curve in it. And this is designed specifically to alter the way the air moving over and below the wing behaves. Firstly, the air moving over the wing hugs tightly to the profile of the top face of the wing, and this is slightly more curved than the underside. So the air moving underneath the wing also hugs closely the profile. As the air leaves the wing, you can see there's already a downward motion. This is creating lift already. But something else is happening. The air above and below would like to rejoin each other after it's passed through the wing. In order to do this, the air above the wing has to travel faster than the air below the wing because it has further to go. Air travelling faster has a lower air pressure than air travelling slower. So the air above the wing has low air pressure and the air below the wing has high air pressure. So that also creates lift. And now, with all the lift she needs, there's nothing to stop Jill from flying off into the sunset.
Tally-ho, chaps.
Okay, we can now get our camera into the air and we can control our drone. I don't really intend to talk too much on cameras because they're a very personal thing. But what I do want to talk about is gimbals. Gimbals are the important bits of kit that make your footage look smooth and steady. So we'll just spend a little bit of time talking about them. Just want to do a little bit of a practical demonstration on gimbals. So the gimbal is the bit in between the camera and the drone itself, and it's there just to even things out. And the way it works is it's got tiny little gyroscopes inside called IMUs. That's internal measurement units, and they use algorithms to work out the position of the drone and the position of the camera, and they use its roll, tilt and pan motors to even up the camera so everything looks nice and smooth. So if you tilt that way, obviously the camera stays still. Likewise, if you tilt that way, it does the same. So if we come round and we look from the side, we can see that when we tip forward, the camera stays still, and when we tip back, the camera stays still.
So that's really important when you think about your 400 foot up in the air and all the air wants to do is buffet your drone around like this. You can see that you can be quite vigorous and it will still keep the camera in a nice even position. So that is gimbals.
The control and communication with the drone is a three-way thing between the controller, the app and the aircraft itself. I don't really want to go into the app too much because it's a little bit boring, but there are a couple of things that I want to mention, and also most of the key exam questions are taken from this section, so it's really critical that you pay attention to this bit. Firstly, the screen has touch focus. The areas So anyway, I hope you got all those questions down because you'll need them in the exam at the end. Anyway, that was a bit lucky. I thought I leant on the fast forward there for a second, but obviously not. Anyway, you can see from the screen that the app has a number of autonomous programs. Those are the little icons at the bottom. And autonomous programs are the things that control the way your drone behaves. I'm not really interested in talking through most of them, but I do want to talk a little bit about active track. Active track can target and fix onto fixed points, people and moving objects, to the point where there is no input from the pilot. The aircraft does everything itself. There are a number of different modes to this, such as follow me and active track, which we can see here. We use both of these modes in the new Ian Reid film, Shadows. So this is the unedited version, obviously, and Ian wanted this to be shot in two different ways. But basically what he wanted to show is the arrival of two of the main characters in the silver car, driving down the lane to meet the third character in a clandestine meeting, but Ian didn't want to reveal this third character until right at the end of the shot. So as I said, we shot this in two different ways. This is the first way. Anyway, so this is the second shot, exactly the same shot really, but this time, although we're still using active track, we're now in follow me mode. So we've got a static drone at 25 feet. And what this does is it just locks onto the car, and as the car drives past, it kind of just drags the camera with it, but the drone itself stays static this time. But you still get that lovely reveal of the mystery car at the end of the lane and the start of the clandestine meeting. So this now gives Ian a couple of choices in which he can make the decision on which one he wants to use. I don't really have a favourite myself. Maybe you do. Maybe Ian will enjoy hearing from you to which one you think is the best. Anyway, Shadows and Ian Reid. Thanks for that, Ian. Okay, so we can't go to the movies at the moment, but maybe the movies can come to us. So what I've got is a couple of clips from big budget movies that interest me because they relate to drones in some particular way. And the first one of these is the Sam Mendes film Skyfall. The reason why Skyfall is such an important movie is because it's generally thought of to be the first of the big budget movies to use drones in the lead camera role. And the way that came about is the script called for a motorcycle chase across the roofs of the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul. Prior to Skyfall, all aerial imagery like that was done using a helicopter. So we have a problem here because Sam wanted a real close, intimate feel to this chase. He wanted the chase to feel really personal. And the problem is with that, you can't do that with a helicopter at a distance. So if you thought about bringing the helicopter down even lower, that's going to cause problems too, because bear in mind it's a market, it's a bazaar. All that's going to do is literally just scatter the stalls to the four winds because the rotor downdraft, so that's not going to happen.
So anyway, at the same time, the Federal Aviation Authority in America were changing their rules. And they'd granted 5 or 6 people from the film industry a license to fly drones for filming purposes. And one of the people on the crew for Skyfall was one of these 5 or 6. So they ended up doing the aerial shots with drones rather than helicopters. It gave it that lovely feel that Sam wanted. Have a look at the little clip that's coming up and see what you think. We'll have a chat a bit later on.
Where are they now?
They appear to be on the rooftops of the Grand Bazaar.
So anyway, what did you think? I've got to be honest, the first time I saw it, I kind of thought, there's no way he's going to get his Arriva safe driving points riding his bike like that. But apparently, that really was Daniel Craig in some of those shots. And if you look at the picture, you can see it really was. So a big well done to Daniel Craig for giving that a go. So the drones themselves, probably a forerunner or prototype to the Alta 8. The Alta 8 is a heavy lift movie drone capable of carrying the heavy cameras. It has a heavy price as well, around about 25,000 quid each. Tiny little bit out of my price range. Having said that, I did kind of like speak to Julie about it and told them that I kind of needed it for the new Anne and a Half movie, but to be honest, she weren't having any of it, so I'm stuck with what I got for the time being. With regards to the shots themselves, there's a really nice linear crossover shot. It's where the bikes are going in one particular direction, and although the drone's going in the same direction, it kind of like crosses over from one side to another. So in order for that to happen, the camera's got to sweep around to keep the bikes in frame. And as it's sweeping round, you've got Istanbul and the Grand Bazaar just sweeping past you in the background, and it's got a lovely effect, and it looks really, really good. But apart from that, everything's pretty routine, really. I mean, there's a couple of rising shots and a couple of establishing shots, but it's all pretty routine. But remember, these guys are actually breaking new ground. Nobody had ever done anything like this before. Nobody had ever strapped a really expensive camera to the underside of a drone and flew it around the streets. These pilots must have had an awful lot of confidence in themselves. But also think about the movie company, EON, MGM, Sony, Columbia. They all had a little part to play in this. They must have had a lot of faith as well to actually give these people the opportunity to do this. Unless they were kept in the dark, of course. Who knows? Anyway, that's the first one. Let's have a look at the second one. So the second one is Eye in the Sky with Helen Mirren, Aaron Paul and Alan Rickman. And obviously the title is something that's going to catch my attention to start off with, especially if there's Reaper drones in it and all sorts of things like that. But it's something else that caught my eye. I won't say any more about it. I'll just let you have a look at the shot and we'll talk about it in a sec.
I want one of them real bad. One of them. Do they exist? No, sadly they don't. I mean, the military are doing secret things with drones that they're not telling us, but there's nothing as advanced as that, unfortunately. It's not even a matter of technology, it's a matter of air pressure really, and the fact that that is so small. Although I would argue that the high definition and the gimbal action that we see in the shot is probably a long way off getting that sort of thing into a drone the size of the Bug. But as I said, it's more a matter of air pressure. And to give you an example, there's one bit where the Bug flies around the back of the house before it goes in. And in the background you can see some washing being nicely tossed around by the wind. And it would do exactly the same with that little Bug drone. So that can't actually happen. And also, if you remember how noisy that little drone is that I hovered in front of you earlier on in the presentation, and I've got a smaller drone, not much bigger than the Bug, and it's even louder. There's no way that Bug would have been able to fly in after that man had finished washing up or preparing food or whatever he was doing without hearing it, because there's just no way that he'd be able to fly without making noise. It displaces air and that's noisy, unfortunately. So then the Bug flies into the place and then lands beautifully on a piece of 2-inch wood that's holding the roof up, and then focuses perfectly on the group underneath. So much as I'd love that to be true, it isn't, sadly. I love watching the professionals. The imagery that they get is absolutely fantastic. They are super skillful people and they really inspire me to do better. My day job is a bit boring, that I can share with you anyway. It's just a matter of flying around football grounds, flying down to the station to see the crowds of people coming off the trains and watching them all the way up to the turnstiles into the ground to make sure there's no trouble going on. I live feed everything into a control room, and they sometimes ask me to go to particular parts of the ground, etc. I did have an exciting job the other day though. We came across a very serious organised crime group planning some serious criminal activity, international criminality. We're not too sure who they are yet, but we caught them at their meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to identify who they are soon, start kicking doors in, etc. So fingers crossed we'll get somewhere with that soon. Okay, before we all race off and get ready for our exam, I just want to list my 6 favourite drone type shots. If these shots are used really well, they're capable of enhancing any film. So drone shot number 1 is the slider. One of my absolute favourite drone shots is the slider. This is drone flying but with a gentle hand. Usually low and slow, gives that gentle creep forward feel. This adds movement to what might otherwise just be a static scene. If you use it right, it can add a real sense of peace or even build up the feelings of suspense and tension. Drone shot number 2, the down shot. It's not always immediately apparent what we're looking at with the down shot. The down shot can add a little bit of drama to your clips because we see things from a different angle, one that we're not used to seeing. Like the bird's eye view I explained earlier. Sometimes this type of shot can add to the establishing of other shots. Number 3, point of interest. The point of interest, or a parallaxal shot, usually gives that sweeping rotation. It rotates or fixes on a particular point in the frame. This brings the focus on that particular point or area and gives a great sweep effect to the background, which looks really cinematic.
Number 4. Establishing shots. Probably the most used shot in TV and movie. We can instantly see where we are, what time of day it is, what the weather's like, etc. And this will lead into more detailed shots with great effect. Think about the prison shot. If we started with an internal shot, how many people would know where we are? How long would it take the viewer to realise we were in a prison? Number 5. The reveal shot. The reveal shot is all about the drama. It's the shot that promises something good but doesn't give it up until right at the end. This is about the art and helps add cinematic spectacle to your sequences. Number 6. Rising jib. Rising jib shots with drones are there so Ian Reid doesn't have to bring his jib with him every time he goes filming. That's not strictly true, I made that bit up. But jib shots can increase the drama and give that beautiful artistic change of perspective. This is great for bringing things into view that were previously out of frame. It can expand the shot, but it can also restrict the shot as well. It's a very versatile shot. Obviously drones have their limitations. You couldn't do something like this piece to camera, for instance. Or could you? Bye.